Carter. Now, I tend to have a lot of pregnancy stories, I've noticed. I only have 2 kids, but it feels like I was pregnant about 8 years. I don't know how that's possible. Time does not fly when you're not having fun. So anyway, all the moms were like, yes and amen. So I was pregnant with my first son, Carter, and this was in the summer, and I had been booked to speak up in New York. It was an outside speaking event for an outside company. And so I was going up to New York, and I think my flight landed around 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'd had lunch that day. This is important for the story. I'd had lunch that day, but by the time my flight landed, I had to take the car to upstate New York. By the time I got there, my sound check was at 5. It was a meet and greet with the leaders. I was on stage by 7. Didn't get back to my hotel, which was a Hampton Inn, didn't have a restaurant there, until about 10:30 at night. So I had not eaten since lunch that day, so I was really, really hungry. I'm in my 2nd trimester at this point, and you're hungry all the time, right? Like you're always trying to keep snacks with you. So I was like, yeah, I'm really, really hungry, but you know what? I have an early flight in the morning. I'll just go to bed. I'm so tired. I'll just get breakfast at the airport before I get on the plane. No big deal. I'll be fine. Let me just close my eyes and go to sleep. So I went to sleep. I got up early that morning. It was a really early flight. I think it was a 6 a.m. flight. So I got up about 4 in the morning, was going downstairs, had my luggage. It was pouring monsoon outside, and I'm standing there waiting in the Hampton Inn lobby. Again, they don't have breakfast out at 4 a.m., people, okay? So there's no breakfast yet. I'm like, I'm gonna get at the airport. It's gonna be fine. So I'm standing in the Hampton Inn lobby. Monsoon rains, waiting on the shuttle, and I get a text on my phone that my flight's been delayed until 7:30. So I'm like, well, I'm going back to sleep, right? Like, I'm not just gonna hang out here in the lobby. I'm exhausted. Take my, room key, go back to up to my room, set my alarm, for like 5:30 or whatever it was I needed to catch the shuttle, and I go back to sleep. Now, I don't know what happened next, but all I know is I flew out of bed and looked at my phone, and it was 7 a.m. The flight leaves at 7:30. Have y'all felt this feeling before? Mm-hmm. The most terrifying wake up in the world. You are not only late and have missed something, you're late for a flight. I am still a hotel walk, a shuttle ride, airport security away from my gate. So I throw on my hat, I throw on my shoes, I go running, flying to the lobby. I magically get on the 7 a.m. shuttle to the airport in the monsoon rain. I'm running, sprinting through the airport that your heart is pounding. You're flying thinking, I've just got to make it. I've just got to make it. I've just got to go on the flight. I walk up to my gate and thank you, Jesus, I'm the last person on the flight, but I made it before they shut the doors. So I get on there and you're like, whew. My heart rate's like 300, right? I get on the flight and I sit down. I've got my suitcase, I'm getting situated, and I'm just trying to settle my nerves from this crazy morning. I'm so thankful that I made it. And I felt God say to me, I'm going to take care of you. And I thought, yes, I made it. But the moment I calmed down, a new sensation struck. Hunger. In all of my rushing, I hadn't had time to get breakfast. And now, I was another 2-hour flight away from getting food. And I had not eaten, again, 2nd trimester pregnant lady, since lunch the day before. So at this point, I'm desperate. I'm grabbing the in-flight menu. I'm on Southwest. Like, what have they got? Have they got any kind of store, menu, food, restaurant, something I can have? I've got to have something. So I'm sitting there waiting as the hunger pains are getting stronger and stronger. And it's getting to the point, I kid you not, of feeling a little bit like a different kind of panic. Like, I don't know how I'm going to make it 2 hours. I'm so hungry. And I wait while we taxi. I wait while we take off. I wait till we get to 10,000 feet. And finally, the flight attendant comes by my row. And I said, hi, ma'am, hi. I'm pregnant. I forgot to eat. I'm really sorry. But can you just give me, all the pretzels you can allow? Can I just have a case of pretzels and peanuts? And she said something to me that I will never forget. She said, I have a breakfast. Would you like that? And before I could even respond, she had walked away to get breakfast. Her breakfast. A sausage egg biscuit and an apple juice. And she brought it back and she sat it at my tray table, and she said, "Here, have this." Now, y'all, I know the polite thing would have been to decline, but that was not an option, okay? And I sat there as tears were streaming down my face because a complete stranger cared about me. And God's words rang in my ears again as I heard him say, "I'm going to take care of you." I will never forget that moment as long as I live. I will never forget that moment when a complete stranger cared about me. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if everyone on your team acted like that? Wouldn't it be amazing if every person on your team was motivated and proactive and took initiative and did the right thing and took care of your customers in the right way because they knew what to do, because they were motivated and they cared? Wouldn't it be amazing if your business ran as well on your days off as it did when you were there? Wouldn't it be amazing if they just simply cared? Wouldn't it be amazing if they acted like they owned the place? If they had some skin in the game? If you had complete trust and confidence when you weren't there as much as you do when you are there? Well, how do you do that? How do you make that happen? How do you motivate people? You know, it doesn't matter how big your team is, how educated your team is, how experienced your team is, how talented your team is, how intelligent your team is. If they aren't motivated, they can't be successful. If your team is not motivated, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. If they aren't motivated, they can't be successful. It's like you've got a car and you've got all the parts but no gas, right? Like you've got the alternator, you've got the engine, you've got the transmission, you've got the wheels, you've got everything but no gas. If you don't have gas, that car's not going. You have to have a motivated team. But how do you do that? How do you build a motivated team? Where does motivation even come from? Well, I'll tell you one thing that is good news and bad news. Your team's motivation depends on you. Your team's motivation depends on you as the leader. Now, I want to give you 5 really practical ways that you can build a motivated team, okay? Each of these are different steps you can take, different ways that you can build a motivated team in your organization, and all of them are important, and you can use a different combination. We do all of these at our organization, and at the end of each of these, I'm going to give you guys a minute to write down how you're going to do this when you get home. So we're going to treat this a little bit like workshop style. Those of you guys that are watching online and watching on our live stream, be sure to do this at home as well. The first one is this: hire rock stars. Hire rock stars. I love when Dave Ramsey answers this question on the panels because it is so simple. We always get asked the question, how do you motivate people? And he says, you don't. You hire motivated people, right? It starts in the hiring process. We talked about hiring this morning with Dave Ramsey. We talked about interviewing with Ken Coleman. We're continuing this theme. You want to hire rock stars. If you want a motivated team, it starts in the hiring process, that you are actively recruiting and interviewing and selecting individuals that are motivated. Because if someone has a fire within them, you can fan that flame. You can pour fuel on the fire. You can increase their level of motivation and productivity and potential. You can draw out the best in them like a good coach does. But if someone doesn't have a flame, no amount of gasoline is going to help, right? You can't motivate someone that is not self-motivated. Someone has to bring a level of motivation on their own. They have to have some level of self-motivation, which is why you have to start in the hiring process. You want to hire rock stars that are already motivated, and then you're going to set them free and fan that flame and increase their motivation. You know, if someone is not motivated, it's exhausting on you, isn't it? Like, it's exhausting to drag and pull along these people that are not motivated, that don't try, that don't work hard, that don't care. It's kind of like my son, Conley. Okay, I have 2 boys. Carter's 4, Conley's 2.5. And Conley is my crazy one. How many of you have enough kids that one's crazy? Yeah, it didn't take me long. I got to 2 and I hit the mark, okay? Conley is the most strong-willed, determined, defiant, so many adjectives I can think of to describe Conley. One of the things about Conley is, though, if he doesn't want to walk, he isn't going to walk. So you're trying to go somewhere, right? Come on, Conley. You can walk. You're 2 and a half. Come on, Conley. No, he's not walking. He'll just stand there. You're like, okay, we're trying to get across the parking lot. We're crossing a traffic jam. I'm just going to, what would you do? You pick him up, right? No. Conley's going to go boneless. Okay? He magically, the moment you go to reach under his little armpits, just slinks. Okay? He also has a defense move I call the Superman, where he thrushes himself out this way when you're trying to catch him because you got one arm between his legs, one arm around his chest. This is my husband carrying him through Disney World. Now, this is you when you are trying to carry your team members. Aren't you tired? You are sweating and you are exhausted because you are trying to carry people that don't want to go. You are trying to make people go that don't want to go. You're trying to make people care that don't care. You're trying to motivate people that aren't motivated. You can't make someone care. You can't. You can do all the things I'm going to tell you to do today, and if someone is not motivated on their own, none of them will work. So when you go home and you put this into practice, you're like, well, Christy taught us these 5 ways. If there are people in your team that nothing works with, you know they are not motivated. They don't have that motivation. And what's interesting is motivation, research shows this, motivation predicts success better than intelligence, salary, or ability. A person's level of motivation predicts their success better than their intelligence level, their ability, or the salary you pay them. The research shows that when tested in national surveys against such seemingly crucial factors as intelligence, ability, and salary, level of motivation proves to be a more significant component in predicting career success. You know, I was reading a book a while back called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and I love this book. It's a great business book, but she wanted to understand from a researcher's perspective the aspects of passion and perseverance. Like, is it born into some people? Can it be taught? Where does it come from? How do you cultivate it? So it's really fascinating, and she cites several research studies in this book, and one of the things that she talks about is how there was actually a study done at Harvard University, this is years ago, where researchers wanted to kind of gauge these college-aged men throughout their life and see the level of passion and perseverance, their grit level, and how it affected their life. So they put them on treadmills. Okay, picture this. There's like 10 or 15 treadmills lined up. All these participants, these young college-aged men, get on the treadmills all at the same time, and they started running. Okay, so they're jogging, they're running, and every minute or two, the researchers would increase the speed and the incline. So it's getting harder and harder. A couple more minutes, increase the speed, increase the incline, harder and harder, until guys are having to step off, right? They're like, I can't keep going. They kept doing this and measured how long different men stayed on the treadmill. Here's what's fascinating. They tracked those men throughout their life. Those men that stayed on the treadmill the longest were not necessarily those that were the most physically fit. They were the men that later in life had the highest levels of success in every other area of their life. Family success, career success, financial success, you name it. It was this grit factor. It was this passion and perseverance that I am not going to give up. There's also a quote in the book Grit that I love by Will Smith, and he says, I will not be outworked, period. You might have more talent than me, you might be smarter than me, you got it on me in 9 categories, but if we get on the treadmill together, 2 things are going to happen. One of 2 things is going to happen. You're getting off first, or I'm going to die. It really is that simple. It is that never give up attitude. That's what you're looking for. The grit, where you've got someone that is going to do the very best they can in the job, not because you deserve it, not because the customer deserves it, not because the business has the right mission and values, not because the situation calls for it, but because that's who they are. They can't not do it. It would go against their very core. So the first step to building a motivated team is hiring rock stars. Now, I told you guys, I want you guys to put this into practice. So even you all watching at home, I want you to do this with us. I want you to take 1 minute and write down some interview questions that you can ask in your upcoming interviews and future interviews to ensure that you're hiring rock stars. I'll give you a hint. I'll tell you one of my favorites. One of my favorite interview questions to ask is so simple. Why do you want this job? It gives you incredible insight into that person's motivation. We asked this question when we were hiring a position for a nanny for our family for my 2 boys, which, I don't know, in my opinion, is the most important job in the world, right? It's my children. I asked this question, why do you want this job, to every single candidate. Y'all, some of them, their answer was amazing. Well, I want to pursue a career in music. I just want to be the next national big star, so I thought this would be a good way to pay the bills. Nope, out, right? Another one, why do you want this job? Well, I mean, kids are easy, just like turn on Netflix, right? Nope, out. Just ask someone why they want that job. There's a really great starting point. Take 60 seconds, write down some interview questions or even things you can do in the interview process to test and assess if that person is really motivated. Go ahead and take 60 seconds. All right, we're going to keep rolling. One other note on that one, though. When I was in college, this is a random example, but when I was in college, I applied to work at Olive Garden as a server. And so it asked you certain questions on the interview process, or on the application, rather. And one of the questions it asked was, are you patient? Because anyone in the restaurant industry knows, like, you got to be pretty patient with customers, right? It asked if you're patient, so of course I'm like, yes, check, for sure. Well then, whenever they said, okay, you got your application, they're like, sit right here and someone will be with you to bring you back for an interview. You know how long I waited? 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. They wanted to see if I was really patient. Now, you may like or not like that strategy, but it's fascinating to see how people really act in certain scenarios. So think about that in your interview process. How can you ask someone a question or put them in an environment to show, leave a piece of trash on the floor, see if they pick it up on their way up. There's things you can do to see people's level of motivation. All right, let's keep going. Number 2, in addition to hiring rock stars, let's assume you've got the rock stars on the door, you've got awesome people on your team. Now, you as the leader are going to fan that flame. You are going to put gas on the fire. You are going to bring out the very best in them. Let's talk about how to do that. There's several ways you can do that. And we do all of these in our organization. The second way would be to share the why. Share the why of your organization. Why does it matter? Why do you exist? Why should a customer care? Why should your team care? At the beginning of almost every single staff meeting and Devo, our devotionals are on Wednesday, our staff meetings are on Monday morning, Dave will read emails and letters to illustrate why we do the work that we do. He reinforces it over and over and over. We even started a new campaign this year that is the most specific example of this I've ever seen, and it's called Why We Work. It has the faces and the stories of the people whose lives are changed by the work that we do. We read the stories, we interview them, we show videos that interview them. This is why we work. This is why it matters. This is why, over and over and over. Share the why, over and over. Because people don't just want to work for a paycheck. They want to work for purpose. It doesn't matter what the role is on your team. It doesn't matter if it's a web developer or a landscaper or someone packing boxes. People want to feel like their work matters. They want to work for a purpose. They want to feel significance in the work that they do. Now, there was a study done, and Dave's told this story before, I don't know if you guys have heard it, where researchers wanted to understand this. They wanted to understand which is more important, purpose or a paycheck. So they did a study where they invited participants out to this job site, and they said, we're going to pay you $5 a day. And what we need you to do is we need you to dig out this ditch. So that's what the participants did for the whole first half of that first day. They dug out the ditch. Then they took a quick lunch break, and after lunch, the researchers said, okay, now this afternoon we need you to fill that back in. So they did, confused. They filled the ditch back in. At the end of the day, every single participant was paid $5 for each hour that they had worked. They said, now if you come back tomorrow, we're going to pay you double. We're going to pay you $10 an hour, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to dig the ditch out and then fill the ditch back in. Only half of those participants showed up. So then they did the work. They dug the ditch out, they filled the ditch back in. At the end of the day, they were paid $10 an hour. And the researchers said, now, if you come back tomorrow, we're going to do the same thing. But we're going to pay you double again. We're going to pay you $20 an hour. We're going to do the same work. Only half of that group showed up on the third day. They did that same work. They dug the ditch out. They filled the ditch back in. At the end of the day, they were paid $20 an hour for their efforts. And the researchers said, now, if you come back tomorrow, guess what? We're going to pay you double again. We're going to pay you $40 an hour. But you guessed it. We're doing the same work. We're going to dig the ditch out. We're going to fill the ditch back in. Not a single person showed up. Not one. They were going to be paid $40 an hour, the most they've been paid yet. But people don't just want a paycheck. They want a sense of purpose. So I don't care what business you're in, what industry you're in, what job position that person has. It's on you as the leader to share the why of why your business exists and why that team member matters in the big picture. They want to know they have purpose in what they do. A good way to do this is to cast the vision. Cast the vision of where you're going as an organization. What are you excited about for this year? What are you excited about for next year? What are your goals? What's your future look like? People want to know where they're going. Because the opposite actually demotivates. Ambiguity stresses people out. Man, it's demotivating when you don't know where you're going or why you're doing it. But clarity, we're going here and we're doing this and here's why. Oh, that's so motivating to people. I get it. I know why I'm doing it and I know where I'm going. It gives them something to rally around. It gives them something to get excited about. Another way to do this, another way to frame it, would be to tell your story. Tell the story of your business. Tell the story of your heart. Tell the story of your why. Tell the story of your vision. Tell the story to people. Here's 3 main categories you can tell the story of. Number 1, tell the story of why it matters. This would be all around your purpose and your meaning behind your work. So tell the story of the why. Tell the story of where you're going. That would be all about the vision and direction. What are you working on this year, next year, in 5 years? So what's the direction? Where are you going? And the third, tell the story of who you are. And I don't mean you personally, I mean you as an organization, your identity. This is all about your mission and your values. I can't tell you how many times Dave Ramsey has said this statement. This is who we are. He will tell a story about how a team member super served someone, how a team member went above and beyond. He'll read a testimony from someone whose life was changed because one of our team members went above and beyond, did something to the equivalent of giving a pregnant woman their very own breakfast. And he would say, this is who we are. It's It's not a statement about a checklist of character qualities. We're talking about an identity. What is the identity of your business? What's the identity of your organization? Tell the story of why, of where you're going, of who you are. And a good way, as you tell this story, I would just tell you just as a communication tactic, and this is something you'll see all speakers do, but you can do this as a leader, even if you're not a professional speaker, but make people feel something. Make people feel something when you tell the story. Don't just read it like, well, so-and-so hit their sales record, yay, right? Like, tell the story with emotion and passion. Make people feel something. When you evoke emotion in people, it makes them care. It makes something rise up in them that isn't activated if you don't make them feel something. It activates them in a way that's more motivating than flat information could ever be. How many of you have seen Dave Ramsey on stage, whether in Financial Peace University or at a Smart Money event, where he is running across the stage yelling cheetah? Anybody seen that? When he's talking about getting out of debt, he's like, you better run! Right? If you want to get out of debt, you better run, you better bust it, you better move. Why does he do that? He could stand behind a podium and say, well, mathematically, you're losing money if you're using credit cards, right? That doesn't work. You have to make people feel something. Well, I've heard him tell the story 1,000 times of standing in the shower, tears streaming down his face, with a toddler and a baby on the way, broke and not knowing how he's going to make it. And that makes you feel something. That makes you care. It makes you want to get out of debt and change your life because it makes you feel something. Feelings motivate us to change our actions and behaviors way more than flat information will ever do. You know how to get out of debt. You know how to become wealthy. Being rich is basic math. Live on less than you make, right? This is not hard. We know what to do, but we need the help, the motivation to change our lives. And your team members are no different. Make them feel something. People make decisions in their life more often than not based on feelings, not facts. You make that decision to change your life. You make that decision to care about that outcome. You make that decision to help that customer based on how you feel. You later justify it with the facts. And these feelings, these stories we tell, when you make someone care, when you make them feel something, that's what motivates people to do work, any kind of work. From shipping to programming, from landscaping to building, from answering phones to packing boxes. Because you make them feel something. You know, when I worked at the YMCA for 3 years, this was before I came to work for Dave Ramsey, I led a team that started as 30 and ended up being 200 by the end of it, by the time I left 3 years later. But this team was a little team of lifeguards. Okay, so I was, 23 years old. I was a new leader, thrown into the deep end of leadership. And one of the things that we did every year as a YMCA organization in Nashville is we did something called the We Build People campaign. So we did fundraising, and all the money from the fundraising would subsidize memberships for people that couldn't afford memberships. So it makes the YMCA available to everyone. It's a great program. Well, as a part of this initiative, they asked the staff, part-time, full-time individuals, to donate to the We Build People Fund. Like, we're bought into the mission, like they want you to participate, obviously. So as a leader, it was my job to make the ask of my team, would they donate to the We Build People Fund. Now, I want to go ahead and point out what my staff was at the time, okay? They were 16 years old, so they were the youngest staff in the entire organization. They were the lowest paid. They made $6.25 an hour. They were the least mature. I mean, they're teenagers after all. Like, they've got the attention span of a flea, right? They are, it's their first job, and they worked the least amount of hours because they're in school. They don't work a lot of hours. So my job was to go to them and make an ask of them to donate to the We Build People Fund. Now, I want you to know, this little tribe of 30 lifeguards donated more to the We Build People Fund in dollar amount, not percentage, in dollar amount than any other department in the entire organization. departments that made more money, that had more team members, that were much older. Why? Because they got it. I made them understand why what we did mattered, where we were going, who we are, what we were about. I told the story of all of those things and made them feel something. You can do that. You can pull this out of your team. Even little 16-year-olds. You can help them get it. But it's on you to do it. It's on you as the leader to cast that vision and teach the why and pull your team into a bigger purpose of the work that you do. I love the quote by Simon Sinek where he says, people are engaged and motivated by why we do things more than what we do. They need to know why. But you know what else? Why you do it will always affect how you do it. Why you do your work will always affect how you do your work. It'll affect how you interact with customers. It'll affect how you lead your team and teach your team. So why do you do it? I want you to take another 60 seconds and write down your why. Write down why this matters. If you want to, you can write out some examples of sharing your story of who you are and where you're going, what the direction is, some of those examples I gave you guys. But take 60 seconds and write down some things that you can get yourself equipped with so when you go home, you can share these. Go ahead and take a minute. All right, so first is hire rock stars. 2, share the why. Number 3, let's keep rolling. You need to know your team. You need to know your team. I mean, really know them. You know, about, I guess it was 12 or 13 years ago, I decided to coach a little girls' soccer team. I have a little half-sister that's 16 years younger than me, and so she was about 6 years old, and I always played soccer growing up, and so I asked her if she wanted to play, and I decided to be the coach. Well, y'all, these little girls on their first season were hysterical, right? Like, they did not know up from down, right from left, forward from back. It was magnet ball where the whole little club just follows around the ball on the whole field. At one point, I remember looking up, and one of the little girls was doing cartwheels across the field. And I looked over at one point, and my goalie, who's supposed to be in the goal, is walking up to me with a daisy just to hand me a flower. I was like, get back in the goal! So it was comical, to say the least, training these young girls to teach them about this sport. But over the course of 2 years, I did coach them, and I did work with them, and it was really fun. They never got to be like the greatest team, but they were an okay team. They learned the basics of the game, and they, won some games, lost some games, but they were sweet. We were the cheetah girls. We had our little cheer, and it was just a really fun 2 years, 4 seasons of my life that I got to coach them. Well, after a couple years, my little sister decided she didn't want to play anymore, and my job had moved across town. I was like, you know what? My season is probably up here, so I stepped back and I let another dad on the team take over coaching. Well, in that season when he was coaching, there was a particular game day, I guess about 2 months into the season, where he was going to be out of town. He called me up and said, hey, would you mind filling in? I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. I'd love to. I'd love to see the girls. So I showed up on that Saturday, and of course I was so excited to see the girls. They'd all gotten so much bigger, and they were so excited to see me. And y'all, what happened that day was incredible. Those little girls, my little cheetah girls, beat the other team 6-0. They played their little hearts out. They had sweaty ponytails and red faces, and they were giving it their all. And every single parent said to me, they play so hard for you. Do you know why that is? Because I knew them. Because I know them. Leaders, when you know your team, I don't mean know what function of a job they do at your organization. You know their spouses, their kids, their fears, their frustrations. You know if they have pets. You know their birthdays and anniversaries. You know them. When you know them, they will go to the ends of the earth for you. They will play their little hearts out for you. But you got to know them. You need to know them. Your leaders need to know the team members they are leading. Here's some things you need to know about them. You need to know their DISC profile or personality profile. If you use Myers-Briggs or DISC or Enneagram or StrengthsFinders, you need to know how they tick, how they think, how they communicate, how they work. You need to know their dreams. What are they working on? They excited about getting married, excited about buying a house. They want to go on a big vacation next year. Know their dreams. You need to know their why. What makes them tick? What's their personal why? Their personal motivation. And you know, I experienced something kind of funny a couple years into marriage with my husband, Matt. Some of you guys may have experienced this, where every time a holiday came up, or a birthday, or Christmas, I would just try to guess what Matt would want, right? Like I'm trying to drop hints and look over his shoulder if he's scrolling Amazon, or try to text my mother-in-law. I'm trying to stalk him to find out what he wants for a Christmas present or birthday present. Well, after a couple years of this, with not a lot of luck, I finally was like, you know what I should do? I should ask him. I don't know. Sounds crazy. But what if you did that with your team members? What if you, I don't know, ask them? Ask them what motivates them. For some people, it might be money and bonuses. For some people, it might be gifts and surprises. For some people, it might be public praise and recognition. For some people, it might be time off. Everyone's wired differently, and we value different things. So instead of trying to guess and speculate, why don't you ask them? When we hired our now nanny, that is, she's been with us 2 years, and she's just the most phenomenal person in the world, I asked her early on, I would love for you to tell me a list. I want a list of everything from $1 items to $500 items of things that you like. What's the kind of candy you like? What would be a medium level surprise? What would be just a huge, awesome dream gift? I'm not promising any of this, but it lets me know what you value and what you know. So when we want to bless her and surprise her, her birthday's actually coming up in a couple weeks, I'm pulling from that list. I'm getting her something that I know that she'll love, so just ask them. Ask them what motivates them, because different people are motivated by different things. You know, my husband and I bought a boat last year. And so I found this boat online that was at Tim's Ford Power Sports, which is in Tennessee, in southern Tennessee. And I decided to drive down to look at it. And there was this good old country boy named Wade who had been helping me. And I loved Wade. Wade had worked at Bass Pro Shops for 30 years. And he was just the nicest guy. And so we were just cutting up, talking, all that. So I guess I was wearing my UT hat. I went to UT Knoxville, University of Tennessee, and I guess I was wearing that hat. He goes, yeah, that stadium's just the loudest stadium on game day. I was like, yeah, Wade, it is. He goes, you know who I played for? I was like, who? He said, Bear Bryant. He had played for Alabama when Bear Bryant was the coach, which is for those of you that don't know SEC football, he is legend, okay? And he said, I'll tell you something about Bear Bryant that most people don't know. He knew how to coach people differently. He said, I remember one day after a game, he took this one guy by the face mask and yanked him forward and back, screaming in his face, wearing him out. He said, the next game, I missed a block. And I got a note on my locker, tiny little sticky note. Come see me, Bear. He said, I went down to his office, just shaking in my shoes, scared out of my mind. He was just going to rip me. And he said, he looked in my eyes and he said, I know you can do better. I want to see better. Now get out of my office. He said, I learned something about Bear Bryant that day. He knew what worked for one person wouldn't work for another. He said he knew that grabbing me by the face mask would just crush me. It wouldn't motivate me. It would shatter me. But saying he believed in me and he knew I could do better, oh man, I gave it everything I had that next game. So if you want to motivate your team, if you want to bring out the best in them, you need to know what motivates them, which means you need to know them. You need to know your team. I love this quote where it says, while level of motivation, this is research shows this, while level of motivation is highly correlated with success, importantly, The source of motivation varies greatly among individuals and is unrelated to success. It varies greatly. Your team is motivated by different things. All right, you got another minute. I want you to write down some questions you can ask your team to get to know them. What are some things you want to ask them? What are some things your leaders can ask your team to get to know them, to find out what motivates them? Go ahead and take a minute. All right, number 4, we're still rolling here. Number 4, cultivate progress in your team. Cultivate progress in your team. Nothing is more motivating to someone than seeing how far they've already come. Nothing is more motivating to someone than seeing the progress they've already made. And research shows this. Research shows that a person seeing progress is more effective at motivating them toward more progress than almost any other source. There's a quote from Harvard's research that says, the pattern is what we call I think we got a slide here. The pattern is what we call the progress principle. Says nothing, for example, nothing makes me want to run faster than seeing time taken off my minute per mile pace. Nothing makes me want to lose weight like seeing the scale goes down. Nothing makes me want to write the next chapter of my book like seeing the chapters I've already written. When you start to see this progress, it motivates you to make more progress. If you eat salads for a month straight and you never see the scale go down, you're going to go back to eating cookies. You need to see the progress you've made, the effect of your effort, the reward for your sacrifice. Progress creates momentum, and momentum is powerful. It motivates you to make more progress. This is why goals are so important, because it gives you these mile markers to see how far you've come. It gives you something to track and see, wow, okay, it's January. I set a goal in January to do this, and now it's February, and okay, I've already made this much progress. So seeing progress is so important for someone to be motivated. If they feel like that they are digging a ditch out half the day and filling it back in at the end of the day, and they don't know why they're doing it, and they're not seeing any progress, then it's very demotivating. So what wins can you celebrate on your team? What progress can you celebrate? I'll tell you, one of the most effective things that you can do as a leader is just speaking life over your team, using your words to build them up. Believe in them. They want to prove you right. Believe in them. They want to prove you right. Say, I'm so proud of you. I saw how you handled that conflict the other day. You handled it with such class. You know what? I think this is going to be your best year of sales yet. I think you are going to be number 1 in our sales team this year. Speak that over them and watch how they rise up and become it. When you believe in them, they want to step up and they want to prove you right. All right, number 5, and we'll do this together at the end. We'll do these together. Number 5, be motivated. Be motivated yourself. You know, my son Carter, like I said, he's 4 years old. It's been fascinating to watch him as he learns how to walk and talk, how he learns how to dress himself and do things. But it's also funny to watch him imitate me. You know, he'll, if we go somewhere where they've got like an outside concert area and nothing's going on stage, he'll walk up on stage and walk around doing this with his arms to imitate Mom. When he was just 2 years old and couldn't talk, he took his little toy electronic thing and held it up to his ear like he was talking on the phone. He's like, right? He imitates me. Your children imitate you. Your team imitates you. Leadership starts at the top. Leadership starts at the top. If you come in every single day, you're stressed and you're discouraged and you're overwhelmed and you're negative and so on, then you better believe your team will mirror that. You have got to first give what you're asking for. You have to give what you want to get. You cannot motivate your team if you yourself are not motivated. You have to be motivated yourself. Now, being here is an awesome first step. You got out of the business, you're investing in yourself, you're learning, you're growing, you're taking notes, you're going to go back and you're going to be motivated. But it's got to be a continual habit, a continual rhythm. It's not a once a year thing, it's an all the time thing. That you are motivating yourself so that you can motivate others. You can't offer something you don't have. And you can't lead people where you are not. You have to first be motivated yourself. You know, I had a Bernese mountain dog for 11 and a half years named Jackson. And he was my baby before I had babies. I got him in college and had him forever. But when my dad met Jackson for the first time, he said the most interesting thing about him. He said, you know what? That dog can tell he's so loved. I thought, isn't that an interesting way to say it? Like, my dad did not say Jackson is so loving. He said you can tell he's loved. You can't offer something you don't have. You can't give people something that you don't have yourself. So if you want to motivate your team, if you want a high-performing team, if you want a team that's excited to come into work, ready to give it their all, then you better be excited to come to work and you better be ready to give it your all. You better be motivated yourself. I love how Zig Ziglar says, people say motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing, and that's why we recommend it daily, right? This is not something I teach you one time, you walk out and never revisit again. This is something every single day that you are cultivating in yourself. From hiring rock stars to leading your team to staying motivated yourself, your team's motivation depends on you. I'm going to give you one more 60-second clock, and I want you to write down, this is before we wrap up, write down how you can know your team, how you can cultivate, or we already covered know your team, how you can cultivate progress in your team, what are some things you can celebrate coming up, and also some more ideas of how you yourself can stay motivated. What motivates you? Is it going for a workout, having time alone, a date night with your spouse, seeing the sales records blow up? What is it for you that excites you? So write down some examples of how you can cultivate progress when you get back, and also some examples of how you yourself can stay motivated. Go ahead and take 1 minute for that.